I had always dreamed of visiting Charleston, enchanted by its historic charm and haunting beauty. The city's cobblestone streets, moss-draped oaks, and old-world architecture promised a perfect escape, and I was eager to immerse myself in its mysterious atmosphere. My boyfriend, Mark, and I decided to stay for a few days, booking an old, restored Victorian house through Airbnb that promised an experience steeped in Southern elegance. The listing described a quaint guest suite on the second floor, complete with a clawfoot tub, a cozy fireplace, and a view of the garden. The price was reasonable, and the host, Miriam, had rave reviews from past guests, all saying she was friendly and accommodating. We arrived on a Friday afternoon. The weather was mild, with the sun casting long shadows across the streets. The house stood on a quiet, tree-lined road, surrounded by large, ornate homes. We found the key hidden in a small rock near the front porch, just as Miriam had instructed, and let ourselves inside. The house was beautiful, with dark wood floors, antique furniture, and high ceilings that made it feel both grand and intimate. The guest suite was tucked away at the top of the stairs. It was smaller than the photos suggested, but still charming, with velvet curtains and an old-fashioned iron bed. The first night was peaceful, and we slept soundly under the gentle hum of the ceiling fan. The next day, we wandered through the historic district, admired the gardens, and had lunch at a lovely little cafe. We returned to the house in the early evening and settled in, cooking a simple meal in the small but well-equipped kitchen. Around 11 p.m., as we were about to retire for the night, we heard the faint sound of footsteps above us. At first, we assumed it was Miriam moving around, maybe cleaning or preparing for the next guest. But the steps continued, slow and deliberate, as though someone was pacing back and forth. I shrugged it off, thinking it was just the house settling. However, as the night wore on, the pacing grew more erratic, closer, faster. The floorboards creaked under the weight of someone, or something, moving with purpose. I could hear the sound of a door opening and closing, followed by a soft scraping noise. Mark and I exchanged nervous glances. Neither of us could explain it, but it felt wrong. We checked the door to our suite, ensuring it was securely locked, and tried to sleep. But the sounds didn't stop. Around 2 a.m., we heard a soft tapping on the door, like someone was gently knocking, followed by an eerie silence. My heart pounded in my chest. I reached for my phone, but there was no message from Miriam, no explanation. The next morning, we asked Miriam if she had been working late, or if anything unusual had been happening in the house. She quickly apologized and explained that old houses like hers often made strange noises, especially at night. Her voice seemed a little too hurried, too forced. Still, we accepted her explanation and decided to push it out of our minds. But the next night, the noises returned. The pacing, the tapping, the scraping. It grew louder, as if whatever was up there was getting closer. Mark, now visibly unsettled, decided to investigate. He grabbed a flashlight and went upstairs. He tiptoed through the dark, calling Miriam's name, but the house was silent. He came back down, his face pale. "There's nothing up there," he said, but his voice trembled. That night, as we lay in bed, the sounds became unbearable. It wasn't just footsteps anymore. It was something else. A soft, low murmuring, like a voice, faint but persistent, coming from the far corner of the room. My skin crawled as the words became clearer, but I couldn't make them out. I grabbed Mark's arm and we both held our breath, listening. Suddenly, there was a loud bang, like something heavy had fallen. The house seemed to shake. We ran downstairs in a panic, heartbeats pounding in our ears. The front door was wide open. I looked at Mark, eyes wide with terror. "We need to leave, now!" We rushed to grab our things, but before we could get to the door, Miriam's voice echoed from the top of the stairs. "Please don't leave," she begged, her tone unnervingly urgent. "It's not safe out there. You don't understand." I froze, staring up at her. She stood at the top of the staircase, her pale face drawn with worry. There was something in her eyes, a strange, almost pleading look, but her hands were trembling. "What's going on, Miriam?" Mark demanded, his voice shaking. Her gaze flicked nervously to the closed door at the end of the hall. "It's better if you don't know. Please just stay in your room. It's safer that way." I felt a chill run down my spine. "No, we're leaving now." Miriam stepped aside as we rushed toward the door, but as I passed her, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. Behind her, in the shadows of the hallway, I could see the faint outline of a figure. A tall, thin figure, standing motionless in the dark. We didn't stop to look back. We fled out into the night, not stopping until we reached the nearest hotel. It wasn't until the next day, when I called Miriam to ask what had happened, that she finally confessed. She told me that her husband had died in that house years ago. He had been ill, and she had cared for him in the upstairs room. But after his death, strange things started happening. Voices, footsteps, strange shadows. Miriam had been trying to sell the house, but no one would buy it. And now, she said, she was too afraid to leave herself. We reported everything to Airbnb and moved on, but I still think about that night. The figure in the hallway, the whispers in the dark. Every time I close my eyes, I wonder, was Miriam telling the truth? Or had something far darker been living in that house, waiting for someone to uncover its secret?